responsibility you all have to tell the truth, not just to be first, but to tell the truth. We live in a society now where it's just first. Who cares? Get it out there. We don't care who it hurts. We don't care who we destroy. We don't care if it's true. Just say it. Sell it. Sell it. Sell it.
There is fiction in the space between the lines on the page of memories. Write it down, but it doesn't mean you're not just telling stories.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Community Classroom. This is Dr. Tracy McCarthy, psychologist, attorney, and educator. We're going to be addressing the dynamic of the big lie. It is said that a big lie is more readily believed than a smaller one. And so we're going to be addressing a couple of really big lies related to the history of individuals identified as African American or Negro. Also, it entails the history of Africa, the history of Europe, the history of Asia, the history of the totality of America. It's all embodied in this series of big lies. Basically, it is a dynamic of gaslighting the public, spreading false narratives based upon purported research, fake research basically, fake data, some of which is purported to have been purchased in order to get the truth about history. One slave narrative lie is that the slave trade happened basically in reverse, meaning there was a mass exodus of American Indians to Africa and Europe versus Africans actually coming to the Americas. The second big lie is that it was individuals who identify as quote-unquote white. Those were the individuals who were actually enslaved in America versus those who would be considered brown or African American or African or dark Indians. The third big lie is that during the Jim Crow era, it was the brown people, the African Americans, Negroes, Black Americans, and Indians who actually were these wealthy farmers who were taking advantage of quote-unquote white sharecroppers. When these big lies are asserted and a response is given with data to address these misconceptions, it is met with vehement rejection of the data and an insistence that the data is insufficient, the data is wrong, the slave voyages database is wrong, all of the historical narratives are wrong. Anything that does not comport with this spin doctoring related to history, all of that is wrong. And when presenting additional information for clarification, name calling ensues. So not only is there name calling, you have these ad nauseum panel discussions insisting that the research that is out there is inadequate. It's inadequate data, it's misinterpreted data, and that the truth is actually these big lies. And this is undergirded by a further assertion that not only is this the researcher Dane Calloway's position, but that quote-unquote white people and others around the world actually support these historical revisions. And again, anything to the contrary of these revisions, the explanation is that people are suffering from the Mandela effect. If this video appears on anything other than Dr. Tracy McCarthy, it is stolen and unauthorized. Let's get started. As already explained in part 1, last year a donation from the Community Classroom was made to Dane Calloway in response to his request for donations for field trips to do historical research. Subsequent to this donation, Wake Up Indigenous Niji, now American Indian Truth, stole the video from the Community Classroom, renamed it, uploaded it in support of Dane Calloway's channel to direct traffic to Dane Calloway's channel. And what this did was create, again, a false narrative of this unwavering support for Dane Calloway's positions. As indicated, once the video was stolen, there was a request for the person to remove the video. The person refused to remove the video. His name was Marcus Washington, working in concert with Dane Calloway to get this support for Dane Calloway's channel. Dane Calloway's channel is highly monetized. The community classroom, of course, is not monetized. And so asking for the video to be removed resulted in Wake Up Indigenous, Niji, American Indian Truths, starting this entire legal battle over the video, insisting that they owned the video and had a right to the video. The contact information for this particular individual who stole the video went back to Dane Calloway. And in response to videos providing data to address concerns in some of Dane Calloway's data, this has been met with these ad nauseum panel discussions in response from the Internet Indians. Now we're going to listen to some examples of these assertions related to these revisions in historical narratives that are being advanced by a number of individuals who are identifying themselves as Aborigines, as Indians. Now, this is not the narrative that is coming out of actual Indian nations or tribal groups. This is specifically coming from individuals on the internet, and in this case, this is coming from Dane Calloway, who is purporting to have 1 million people listening to this. And so when data has been provided in response to this, it is met with significant spamming from those who identify as fans of Dane Calloway's, flaming from the Aborigine community, and also the provision of additional historical fabrications to support the original fabrications. And so you can see there have been a number of videos to address this misuse of historical data. There has been a provision of information from census records, information from the slave voyages, information from other historical records, and primary sources. This has been met again with spamming and flaming.
Mark my word. I'm sure it's a few studies going on right now. I'm still checking the records to verify information. But these white folks is losing population. All the way back, I'm talking about their direct population. They've been fighting for that for the longest. They felt outcast. They were the real slaves because it wasn't that many of them. They felt outcast, and look what they did. They did the same thing in Africa, South Africa to be exact. The same thing. They changed them to Bantus. They changed their identities. Paper genocide. They did the same thing over here. That's the Mandela effect. They did the same thing in South. And what I mean by here, I'm talking about South, Central, and North America. All of them. We can't exclude none of them. That's the Americas. That's Turtle Island. Pacific Island included. Even the First Nations of Canada, salute to y'all. I love y'all too. Fiji's, I love y'all too. I get love from all over the world. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. That's not a brag. That's just letting you know I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Trust me, because they will easily make a video and call me out if I'm wrong. Them tribes deep and been out here for the longest. If I said something wrong, where the video at? You know they seen me. I'm over 1 million subscribers. I know they seen me. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Smaller and smaller. Mark my word. I'm sure it's a few studies going on right now. I'm still checking the records to verify information. But these white folks is losing population. All the way back, I'm talking about their direct population. They've been fighting for that for the longest. They felt outcast. They were the real slaves because it wasn't that many of them. They felt outcast, and look what they did. They did the same thing in Africa, South Africa to be exact. The same thing. They changed them to Bantus. They changed their identities. Paper genocide. They did the same thing over here. That's the Mandela effect. They did the same thing in South, and when I mean by here, I'm talking about South, Central, and North America. All of them. We can't exclude none of them. That's the Americas. That's Turtle Island. Pacific Island included. Even the First Nations of Canada, salute to y'all. I love y'all too. Fiji's, I love y'all too. I get love from all over the world. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. That's not a brag. That's just letting you know I'm not joking.
So the narrative is that the real enslaved people in not only the Americas, North, South, and Central, but also in Africa, the real enslaved individuals, according to Dane Calloway and the brown Aborigines calling themselves Negroes, Indians, their narrative is that that is the truth, is that the individuals identified as quote-unquote white were the ones who were enslaved not only in the Americas, but also in Africa, and specifically South Africa. And in order to support this array of fallacies and misleading research assertions with this undergirding of 1 million subscribers, is this insistence that individuals who are quote-unquote white and Latino also support these findings and these historical revisions. And this support is from around the world. And we're going to listen to an example of this assertion now.
Work to do. I'm not the only one stating this. There's too many people around the world that are stating this. Around the world.
Right.
So, I mean, that's another thing that people not recognizing. It's not just our own people. It's white people coming out saying it now. It's Latino people coming out saying it now. It's a whole bunch of people coming out saying it. I'm not the only one. It's just, of course, they want to put my name in the title. Why? Because it attract attention. That's it. You know, I mean, that's mainly what it was about. Anybody that would use my name is for attention grab.
It is important to note that these lies increased in response to what was known as ADOS and discussions related to reparations. And so a number of individuals identifying as Indians, spearheaded by Dane Calloway, took up the charge to attack anything related to reparations, insisting that individuals had never been enslaved, insisting that the slave trade occurred in reverse, insisting on this revision of history in terms of the narrative of sharecropping and Jim Crow. Just a total attack on anything related to individuals who identify as African American receiving reparations. When confronted with data, the response has been name calling, pretending not to know about the data, or again attacking the data as invalid if it does not comport with this revised narrative that has been created by these individuals identifying as Aborigines online. Now, while it is possible that individuals actually believe these revised narratives, it's highly unlikely. This is significantly attached to donations, significantly attached to revenue, significantly attached to creating drama. And so it is unlikely that individuals actually believe this. What is going on, however, is an effort to gaslight the public and have the public confused about what history is all about. And so instead of people actually doing their own research, again, this goes back to that grain of truth that we talked about before in relation to Jabari Oseizi's concerns about Dane Calloway's research. And so you have individuals who they get a grain of truth from some of the data presented by Dane Calloway, and then they take that and extrapolate it to everything. And so Dane Calloway could tell people anything at this point. If they found one Indian in their history, they are prone to believe anything and become very defensive if anything is said against this idea of this Mandela effect, creating this dynamic where people are confused about what really happened during slavery. And if the internet Indians, Aborigines, are going to persist in this, they need to show this data that supports this belief, this contention that slavery actually occurred in total reverse, that the enslaved individuals were not the correct enslaved individuals in America, the Americas, or in Africa. And so there's a totally different narrative for both South Africa and the Americas. This is completely inconsistent with history. It's completely inconsistent with historical narratives coming from people who actually endured Jim Crow even. And so if individuals are going to persist in this, they need to show data to support these what are now showing as lies. Not only lies, but big lies. And again, I'm going to say that there are many other things that people could be doing and should be doing as young people in their lives other than being on the internet, misleading people to get revenue, misleading people to create chaos and confusion, misleading people so that people will not know the truth from a lie. There are many other things that young people need to be doing with their lives, and this is actually a waste of life and a waste of time. So when individuals are thinking about creating yet another panel discussion, individuals are encouraged to think about what are they doing and why are they doing it? What is the goal? What is the end game in all of this? And is this what you are supposed to be doing with your life? Is this the best life that you could be living? As Tracy Chapman has said, you can write it down, but it doesn't mean that you're not just telling stories.
There is fiction in the space between the lines on the page. Write it down, but it doesn't mean not just telling stories.